Well, the Judicial Conduct Tribunal continues today in Johannesburg. The Gauteng High Court Judge Nana Makhubele is facing a misconduct investigation by the Conduct Tribunal, which could lead to her impeachment. This follows a complaint filed by a civil society organization, #UniteBehind, which alleges that Makhubele violated the separation of powers principle by being both a judge and chair of a state-owned company. Let's take you live to those proceedings.
Sorry, just repeat that for me. The agreement now is that the outstanding fees of counsel, Malika and his group were here up to the time we stopped, and also payment of fees for the future, for the duration of the trial or the hearing until the end.
Okay.
Is that the undertaking?
Thank you. So it's just an email which contained tariffs that the state attorney was willing to pay the bill that we've rendered on and going forward. So there yet to be an agreement around that issue, because our position, remember, these things was twofold. There was an issue whether there's a funding agreement or not, and whether there's an issue of tariffs or whatever. So we seem to be on a second stage now. The state attorney, they do accept that there's a funding legal agreement between Judge Makhubele and the state. So the issue now is the issue of what is the appropriate tariffs that the state attorney is prepared to pay on.
If I may, I don't think it's just a question of the tariff from what you said now, but it is whatever tariff is agreed upon, there will still be another issue whether the attorney representing Judge Makhubele and counsel representing her would be prepared to accept the tariff. What we're concerned with is, at the end of the day, we would like to proceed because we have amongst ourselves agreed that we have to make the deadline for the next JSC sitting, and we are concerned about that. So whatever date we agree upon today, we would like to know whether we're getting the all clear to proceed, or whether there will still be another impediment, so to speak, stopping us from going on. If you just give me a minute. Yes, it's just been pointed out to me that the third member, Ms. Maduba Selevru, is not present here, but she's been kept informed as to what's going on. That's just for the record. Now, can we just deal with the question I've put to you? Is the only thing outstanding the tariff that I think it's the state attorney, is prepared to pay, and there is going to be no question about who's going to represent her then, or is it an issue how much the state attorney is prepared to pay? And is it still an issue as to whether the people representing the Judge Makhubele is going to represent her, whatever tariff is agreed upon? If you could just clear that up for us, please, Mr. Subey.
Well, Chair, thank you for that. But it would be premature for me to say that they won't be, because as I've indicated, we received the correspondence on Friday. We even discussed, it's a matter of between us and Judge Makhubele to discuss it. So, but from where we understand is that the issue around that, whether there is a legal funding agreement between the state and Judge Makhubele is cleared. So this one, I will just be speculating. I will have to either confer with Judge Makhubele, or she can simply respond to that question because she's joining virtually. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. We'll hear you, Ms. Zungu.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, Chairperson, I would like to express my disappointment in regards to not having been able to proceed with this matter, especially in light of the fact that at the previous postponement, it was indicated that we would be proceeding today, whether or not there was legal representation for Judge Makhubele. Be as it may, we understand the difficulties that have been encountered by Judge Makhubele with regards to her legal representation, especially with regards to her engagement with the State Attorney's Office with regards to the legal representation. We were not aware of the correspondence that was forwarded to the Mabuza attorneys with regards that it is now clear that the State Attorney will be funding. And if I did hear correctly from Mr. Sibuyi, that issue of the legal representation is now clear. The only issue outstanding at this stage is whether or not, based on the tariffs that have been suggested, they will be accepting the brief going further on. And Chairperson, I really would like to say this. Again, we sit with an uncertainty with regards to that, because if there is, or when is it that we can get that certainty? Because if a date is set, yet again for the hearing to proceed, we need to be certain that at the next sitting, we will definitely proceeding, whether or not the tariffs have been accepted or not, and that whether there will be legal representation for Judge Makhubele. We are sitting at the stage where, in as much as the State Attorney has confirmed with certainty now in regards to an email, but will she be represented at the next hearing? I think that's the crux of it now, where we are sitting, because we don't want to be setting dates only to find that we cannot proceed because the tariffs have not been accepted or there's no legal representation for Judge Makhubele. But we also understand the difficulties that she's encountered with regards to getting certainty on that aspect. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you. We have a representative of the complainant over here, Mr. Chidel, who represents the complainant. They, of course, are also interested in, well, more than anything else, the finalization of this matter. We have correspondence from the complainant's attorney as to what their position is. I'm going to turn to Mr. Chidel and just hear briefly what is his take on the situation in which we find ourselves today. Mr. Chidel, if you could please just make it clear as to what the complainant's position is.
It aligns itself with the position of the evidence leader. The complainants and our firm were not supplied with the correspondence that we saw, and so the letter that we did send raised the issue, our concerns about endless postponements, our concern again around the issue that if the matter is postponed until January, that we might be facing again exactly another set of postponements. But we do understand the situation that Judge Makhubele finds herself, and I suppose say no more than maybe the appropriate thing is to have a report by Judge Makhubele or her attorneys by the end of this month as to whether or not the tariff issue has been settled. But I leave that obviously in your hands, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chidel. What concerns me, as I said, that the tribunal did set a deadline for itself. And that's a deadline that we hope to keep. I can understand Judge Makhubele's situation as far as legal representation is concerned. And on the last occasion when we met and we took the adjournment, I did make it quite clear that this week we would proceed whether representation is available for Judge Makhubele or not. But I've read the letter that originates from her. I'm just surprised that the complainant wasn't informed, but I had given instructions that everybody should be informed. And that's why we are all here today, so that at least I can be satisfied that we're all on the same page. I've considered the issue, and it is clear that whether Judge Makhubele can be blamed for the position in which she found herself, or whether the blame lays elsewhere. And this is, if I may just state it, my view that I certainly would like to have proceeded, but I wouldn't have liked to proceed riding roughshod over the rights of Judge Makhubele, because this is a serious matter for her. And I have, as was pointed out by the attorney representing her here today, Mr. Sabui, that I can understand her position, and was prepared to consider the application favorably, but as already indicated, there may be some opposition to that today, and we are here today to see if we can deal with the matter. The one issue that has now arisen that I would like some certainty on, just speaking for myself, and I think I may speak for my colleague here, that the only issue is whether representation is outstanding, and the fees that I understand the Solicitor General has made available by tariff, whether that's acceptable or not. Because if it is not acceptable, we're back to where we are today, and I want to avoid that. It's been pointed out, and I do accept it, that we can proceed whether Judge Makhubele comes with representation or not, but I wouldn't like to compel her to appear if representation can be found within the time limit that I've already mentioned, namely that we would have to get a report to the JSC when the JSC meets again next year. And that is my concern for the moment. We are no doubt going to, at some stage today, adjourn. And if any adjournment is going to be considered after that, I'm afraid, my view is, and I will then share that view with the rest of the tribunal and perhaps with the rest of this gathering, is that if any further adjournment is asked for by Judge Makhubele, is that the view of the tribunal is that we will proceed, and she will have to approach the appropriate court for an adjournment, and I can say no more than that. But it certainly won't be at this tribunal's decision that we consider any further representation. I am somewhat, let me make it clear, I'm sympathetic to her position in which she finds herself today. But I can say no more, and I may say this, it is not the unanimous view of the tribunal that we should have considered an adjournment. So let's just get that quite clear. And that if anything further is going to happen, it will have to be a decision taken elsewhere, because it's the decision of this tribunal. And I have discussed it with all the members that when we meet again, we move forward. Whatever else is outstanding will be for consideration of another issue if the Judge Makhubele wants to take it forward, then after that. Is there anything that you wish to ask any questions on, Mr. Sabui?
Thank you, Chair. Just to confirm that perhaps if we afford Judge Makhubele a week or so to come to the tribunal through a correspondence or otherwise, just to indicate a position, I think that would be appropriate.
Chair, I've got two issues that occupy my mind presently. Maybe the first is to seek more clarity from Mr. Sibui. You spoke about correspondence which came later last week. My worry is that if the tariff in terms of the latest correspondence is not agreed upon.
Okay, so we're going to come out of those proceedings, of course, where we've been bringing you those visuals from the Judicial Conduct Tribunal. That is, of course, a hearing, having a hearing really looking into possible misconduct by Judge Nana Makhubele of the Gauteng High Court. Of course, the question being raised right now around this hearing is the organization, civil society organization Unite Behind, having laid a complaint against the judge, saying that she is, I suppose, flouting the rule of separation of powers by not just being a High Court judge, but also serving simultaneously as chair of PRASA. And so we were expecting that we would hear Judge Nana Makhubele actually speaking to the tribunal this morning. Some delays there, and they continue to flirt with the idea of perhaps postponing these hearings possibly to next year, perhaps a week from now. The concern, of course, being that Judge Makhubele does not have a legal representation. The complainant's legal team, of course, worrying about the constant delays and concerned that the matter might only be actually heard by the tribunal next year.